Levinas, Otherness, and Environmental Ethics.
Welcome to an episode on thinking education relationally. In this episode, we explore Emmanuel Levinas's thinking on otherness and ethical responsibility, and what it might mean for teaching, learning, and environmental ethics in higher education.
Unsettling connection as ethics.
In higher education, relational approaches are often framed as invitations to connection, dialogue, empathy, mutual understanding. These orientations are frequently presented as ethical goods, both in teaching and in sustainability education more broadly. But what if some of these assumptions deserve to be unsettled? The Jewish philosopher and theologian Emmanuel Levinas places the ethical relation at the very centre of his philosophy. Yet his approach to ethics is, in many respects, surprising and challenging. Unlike philosophers such as Martin Buber, for whom ethical relations involve dialogue and the breaking down of barriers between self and other, Levinas insists on the preservation of the other's alterity, their irreducible otherness. For Levinas, the ethical relation is not about merging with the other's feelings or sensibilities. It is not grounded in empathy, mutual understanding, or shared experience. Rather, ethics begins precisely where such assimilation fails.
The face and irreducible otherness.
Levinas's most well-known way of articulating this alterity is through the experience of encountering the other's face. He writes, quote, "Speech addresses itself to a face. Knowledge seizes hold of its object. It possesses it. But the face, for its part, is inviolable. Those eyes, which are absolutely without protection, offer an absolute resistance to possession, an absolute resistance in which the temptation to murder is inscribed." Here Levinas is describing the disturbing experience of meeting a face that resists our desire to know, master, or contain it. The face is not a gateway to the other's inner life, nor something I can enter and understand. Instead, it confronts me with a limit. The eyes, Levinas suggests, function as a reflective surface. Rather than revealing the other, they return me to myself, as other to myself. I am confronted with my own partiality, my own incompleteness. As Standish notes, this experience, quote, has nothing to do with those rare moments when you look into the depths of someone's eyes. It is what you see when you do not notice the colour of a person's eyes. End of quote. The encounter is not intimate in a sentimental sense. It is ethically demanding.
Responsibility, unknowability, and the critique of empathy.
The face's inviolability is also what makes it vulnerable. Levinas speaks of the temptation to violence, the desire to destroy what resists assimilation. Ethics emerges, he suggests, when this temptation is interrupted. As Williams and Standish put it, quote, "The face summons me to responsibility before the other and to an obligation that deepens the more I answer to it." End of quote. For Levinas, then, a person's unknowability is not a temporary limitation to be overcome, it is infinite. The more ethically attentive we become, the more we realise how little we can ever fully know another person. This also applies to ourselves. When the other's face reflects me back, I encounter the limits of my own self-understanding. From this perspective, an unethical orientation is one that seeks mastery through understanding, believing that if we know enough, we can possess, predict, or manage the other. Levinas's approach, therefore, invites us to question relational approaches that are often taken for granted as positive. We might come to wonder whether a drive for empathy may sometimes be aggressive, even gluttonous, a desire to consume the other emotionally, to make them familiar, comfortable, and safe. What appears caring and benevolent can, under scrutiny, take on a darker tone.
Implications for sustainability education.
What might all this mean for sustainability educators in higher education? If we adopt a relational worldview, we may be inclined to think that we should cultivate empathetic relationships with students, and that this empathetic stance can then be extended towards plants, animals, and ecosystems. Indeed, empathy-based exercises are common pedagogical strategies in sustainability education, particularly in efforts to foster care for the more than human world.
Beyond the human, without collapsing otherness.
Levinas's philosophy unsettles this assumption. His work initially appears unhelpful for environmental ethics because he restricts ethical relations to encounters between humans. According to Levinas, plants and animals lack language and do not have faces in a sense analogous to human faces. From this position, one that should not be dismissed too quickly, attempts to relate ethically to plants and animals may seem misguided or even incoherent. Of course, one might object that animals do have languages of their own, but to claim that these are equivalent to human language risks reinforcing the very hierarchy it seeks to challenge. Why should linguistic similarity to humans be the criterion for ethical consideration? To insist on this may already involve an ethically problematic, hegemonic assumption. Seen from this angle, Levinas's skepticism toward animal ethics need not rest on human superiority. It may instead prompt us to rethink what ethical relation could mean beyond empathy and identification. There seems no necessary reason why we could not relate to animals in complex, embodied ways that preserve their alterity rather than attempting to imagine ourselves into their experience. From this perspective, empathy exercises involving animals may appear oddly misplaced, out of step with the deeper challenge of acknowledging how limited our understanding of other beings truly is. The more we attend to animals, the more we may come to recognize the inadequacy of our categories, projections, and interpretive frameworks. This paradox, that ethical relation deepens as understanding fails, may be what allows us to live more responsibly with both human and non-human others.
What does this mean for educational practice?
There are, of course, serious objections to this position. Levinas's own stance and the adaptation of his philosophy offered here may overstate the differences between humans and animals. Both positions risk a form of knowingness about what animals can and cannot do. It may well be that empathy with animals has more ethical potential than this account allows. These concerns are important and should not be brushed aside. Yet even if a Levinasian approach proves ultimately inadequate, it remains powerfully provocative. It forces us to reconsider how we relate to other beings, how readily we assume that understanding equals care, and how often ethical education is framed in terms of mastery rather than restraint. Encouraging students to think seriously about alterity, language, and the limits of knowing, about what it means to encounter beings who resist our attempts to grasp them, may be a valuable part of exploring relational worldviews in sustainability education.